Hello, I am back, and if you're watching this, you're back too, and I am proud of you. You're on a mission, so let's do this. We're going to keep talking about publication options, where your book fits in the world, and give you as much information to make a good decision as possible. So, today I want to talk about what I consider to be kind of the two extremes: self publication and traditional publication. There are many options, but I want to cover those two common ones because it's what you hear writers talk about a lot. And again, I kind of consider them the two ends of the spectrum where you're going very traditional or you're just going full DIY, okay? So it'll give you a good indication of the bookends of this process, what is on both ends, and then there's tons of stuff in the middle. So we will fill it in as we continue this discussion. So let's jump into the traditional side of things. This is typically a great path for fiction writers. Many nonfiction writers have success here, and what we call literary memoirs. It's memoirs, we'll talk about this more specifically in depth in a video, but memoirs written by like a famous person, someone who already has a name, do very well with traditional publishers because they see them as already a marketable thing. That doesn't mean your book doesn't have a shot. We just have to really understand how to position your book and you as the writer in order to catch the attention of a traditional publisher. So we're going to talk generally about this today, but some advantages to traditional publishing include, they're going to be giving out literary prizes, and like if you're shooting for movie contracts and distribution in other countries. Think those are the big things that traditional publishers bring to the table. So shortly, we're going to go over kind of the pros and cons of each of these bookends, if you will. But just think, these are big, big companies. They have big resources backing them. They have a lot of competition going into them. And you are going to have to be fully committed to this process. And this is also the much longer path. It's not impossible. It's just one of those, you got to know what you're getting into before you go down that path, right? So self-publishing, on the other hand, is going to give you more control. You're going to be able to publish faster. You get, well, I shouldn't even say more control. You have all the control. You can call your book what you want. You can design your cover however you want. You just have to be the one pushing the process. There's nothing behind you really as far as support from a team, a professional team that has done this. You really just jump into this with 2 feet and go like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. You have to be a very self-starter type of person. If you have an entrepreneurial mindset, this is going to be a good fit for you in that area. So there's much more access. I like to kind of consider it and think of it in the way like the bar is set very low as far as entry point. In my last video, I said like literally anyone can publish a book. You really can. All you need is a manuscript and like a book cover. That's it. That's all you really need. That doesn't mean your book is going to be any good or that people are going to want to read it, but you can get it published. It's very easy. Amazon makes it super easy. There are many other platforms, but I'm going to kind of focus in on Amazon as the mammoth when we're talking about very simple self-publishing. So that's the short, easy way in a lot of respects, and traditional is like the long, hard way, okay? I want you to think of it like that, and we're going to break that down a little bit more. So traditional publishing comes with some pros and comes with some cons. I already talked about a couple, but let's talk about some of these. If you are looking for validation as a writer, validation of your story, prestige, those big things, you see your story becoming a movie or whatever, right? You have your eye on getting foreign distribution deals, big things. You want to see your book in a bookstore. Their print distribution in bookstores is much easier. They know they have all the ins, right? They have the bookstores. who they know will take that type of book, and it flows very easily. You don't have to go pounding the pavement for that. You get a professional design and editing team, and that's included in the contract. So you're going to get your manuscript polished up. It's going to look beautiful. You're going to have someone designing the cover. You don't have to worry about any of that. Even if you have like illustrations or something, I mean, they take care of all of that, right? Not only that, there's no upfront cost. You really don't have to pay anyone to traditionally publish. If you're asked for money, that's not considered traditional publishing. It's most likely a vanity publisher, and we're going to talk about that, but that's an area to be a little bit aware of. So again, we're going to talk about that. But you really shouldn't have to put any costs up front. Now, that doesn't mean before approaching a publisher, you haven't paid for an editor or a proofreader or even a coach to help you flesh out the idea and to really write an amazing proposal. That's where you would put in the money up front to attract their attention. But once you get that deal, you're not paying for the deal, and you don't pay out of pocket after that. Typically, there is a possibility of receiving an advance, which is essentially just getting kind of a payment up front, a lump sum payment up front that is then where your royalties are kind of then discounted against. So let's say, for purposes of argument here, you get a $10,000 advance and your book royalties added up to $5,000. It didn't do as well as the publisher thought, or they didn't put it in the right place, or whatever it is. You don't refund them that extra $5. You keep it. That's the risk the publisher takes. So we'll talk more about the money piece of traditional publishing and contracts and all of that in another video. I know you're like chomping at the bit here, but I want to take this one step at a time so you really start understanding this industry and how this looks for you. So those are the pros, right? The cons, the dark side of this is, again, it's very slow. You probably have already spent a substantial amount of a year or more writing and editing this darn thing to get a full manuscript. Possibly then on top of that, you're writing a full proposal to get in front of those publishers. You've looked for an agent. That could even take a substantial amount of time. It's not probably going to be a very quick process to even get you an agent. 3, 4, 5, 6 months, even up to a year. You really have to be persistent. It's not impossible. It just takes a lot more persistence and time. And then not only that, it's going to take you some time to get the deal, right? To find a publisher after you find an agent, to find a publisher, to get the contract all fleshed out. And then on top of that, they have to get the book ready. They have to get the book ready and prepared to publish. So this is a couple-year deal, okay? I want you to be realistically thinking about this. It's going to be a couple years process to do this. And when you compare it to throwing your book up on Amazon after you've written the thing, it takes a couple hours, right? Not a big deal. So you really have to understand the time commitment here. One consideration in traditional publishing is that if you are a new writer, and you don't really have an established platform, and we're going to talk about that in another video too, or a few videos. If you don't have an established readership yet, or audience, or a strong platform, online presence, that's going to give you less leverage in your contracts. Publishers really want to find authors, writers who have a strong following, because it's like a built-in package for them. They don't have to go find readers for you, not as many. You bring that with you. So that is leverage that you can use in your contract negotiations. That's also going to help you with self-publishing and being more successful after you click the publish button. So we are going to spend a substantial amount of time talking about what is an author platform, and what do you do with it, and how do you get followers and readers, and all of that. So we'll talk about that. Don't worry your pretty little heads. I got you. Another con with traditional publishing is you lose creative control. You might not lose all of it, but many authors get titles or covers or other things, maybe even themes that get a little jumbled that they really aren't happy with. And the publisher kind of has the last say on some of these things, depending on your contract stipulations. It's something that you might be able to get a publisher to agree to allow you to have a say in, or to have the final say maybe. But don't be surprised if you get a publisher who's like, hey, we get to deal with all of these things because we know what sells. Then you lose that control over it. So you have to be okay giving that up in order to get the deal you're trading off there. You may have to do a lot of your own marketing still. I know this is kind of a shocker for many people, but you can't just turn over a manuscript and say, see ya later, send me the monies. They want you to do a lot of work. You have to have, they want to see you have a platform or like an email list or something, access to your readership. They want to see that you are taking control of maintaining that contact, promoting your book, talking about it, doing events. I mean, they're going to also be involved in that process, but it's something that they're not going to be happy with if you expect to come to them, drop a manuscript in their lap, and walk away. That's not how it happens. So you do have to still put in work in the marketing area. And then sometimes royalties are really low. I mean, sometimes, even if you get an advance, that's great. You may not get more than that, right? You may not get anything above your advance if the royalties don't max it out. Sometimes royalties can be like 5-10%, and that's just doesn't add up to a whole lot. So this isn't like a get rich path. You can definitely make some money on this. And again, we will kind of talk about the money in a separate video, but it's not like you're going to walk away necessarily with $0 in the bank. But if you put money into preparing a manuscript and preparing your proposal and all of that, you want to be able to see an ROI. So you're going to have to find a publisher who's going to give you something that you can live with. So those are kind of the cons in the traditional world. Self-publishing, let's jump into the pros and cons there. We talked about a little bit of this, but pros, like you get total creative control, you retain all the rights, you can do whatever the heck you want, call it whatever you want, write whatever you want, all of that, right? You get all the control. You can publish faster. I mean, this literally takes hours once the book is written. It really doesn't take a lot of time. You can republish, an updated version, or a second book in the series. I mean, you don't have to deal with anyone else. You can just continue this process. Click and repeat here, rinse and repeat. The royalties on a site like Amazon or another self-publishing platform are going to be much higher, up to like 70%, and you can choose the price of your book. So that you get a lot of flexibility in that, and can kind of figure out the return on your investment there, or what you can expect per book. And so the harder that you market, the more money you make. You can also utilize a self-publishing platform to funnel people back to your website where you might sell other things, or where you might be doing other stuff. So the publisher is not necessarily going to partner with you on things like that, a traditional publisher, but a self-publisher, you can absolutely, use this to fold into what you're already doing. It's a complement to a business, or other projects that you're passionate about or that you're spending time on. Some cons in the self-publishing world is, again, you're going to foot the cost. You're going to foot 100% of the costs. If you don't want to do the marketing, you're hiring someone to do the marketing for you. Or if you hire the editor, you hire the book designer, all of that, right? And we'll talk more about what is required there. But you front all the costs up front. It's not something that you can put off, because then it doesn't get done. It's just not done by the time you click publish. So, you have to figure out how to distribute this darn thing, right? If you want it in bookstores, it's not, that just because you self-publish doesn't mean it can't be in bookstores. You just have to figure out how to get it in there, or where to get it, where to put it. If you're just doing ebook, that might be this might not be as valid of a concern for you. You might just say, like, it's going to live online, no problem, but you still need to find appropriate channels to promote this book. That's getting out there and connecting with businesses and bookstores and other platforms and venues to see if they will be a good partnership for you. And then, that goes along with you do all of your own marketing, and you can hire people to help you, but you're really in charge of this. You don't have a team backing you up on that at all unless you hire them. And then it really is, it can be quite difficult to get in bookstores, especially big ones like Barnes and Noble, but you really, it's also a very high bar to be considered for literary prizes. So if you're looking for more of that, like I want to make a name for myself, I'm looking for some kind of validation and praise, self-publishing will kind of be a higher bar set for you to do all of that. Traditional publishers, it's a bit more built in with how they operate their business. So that is my video today. I wanted to give you kind of an overview of those two bookends, the long and the short, the easy and the hard, self-publishing and traditional publishing. They both come with pros and cons. No one answer is right for you. And as we continue this discussion, you will see that there are many, many options. And this world of book publishing is not as black and white as it used to be. It used to be very cut and dry. There used to be kind of one way to do things. And then the internet broke all that and gave us access and lowered the entry bar. And now there are so many other options. So we're going to continue this discussion, but I wanted to kind of clear this up, give you something to start thinking about. Which path right now, just do a gut check. Which path sounds like a better fit for you? Which path is hitting more of your good fit criteria, or which path might be hitting some of those, like, I really don't want things on your don't want list, right? Like if you really are stuck on the title, might you have a bigger battle convincing a traditional publisher to keep it, So that is the video for today. We are going to just continue this discussion. I'm going to dive more deeply into some of the nitty-gritty steps that you are going to take in these two particular book-ended paths, if you will. And then we are going to talk about all of the middle stuff too. I'm not going to be able to give you an overview on literally every single type of publisher out there, but we are going to spend some time talking about different publishers and how it might work better for you, do kind of a pros and cons breakdown if we can, right? There are some that you just sort of have to get to know the company to understand what they're really all about. But I am going to bring in an expert, and I'm talking to her later today about details, so she can tell you a little bit about, from her publishing experience, what are those kind of middle ground publishers that are a little bit more in the gray zone. So that is my goal for this month, and that was my goal for this video. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you back because I know you're on a mission, and so am I.